my gosh, I love it. I say we just go for it, girl.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's dive in.
Oh my God, I love this. So for anyone watching, this is like basically Pam and I were talking and we were like, we should record our conversations because we just get into some juicy things. We're like, why not? Let's go for it. By the way, this, I don't know which place you are, whether you're next
Sometimes
to
it
me
switches.
here. Pamela Gold, goldevolution.com, basically an amazing human being and just coach and spiritual master and all this stuff, which sounds so frou-frou and fluffy of how to describe you. But that's why I just was psyched about this idea of doing this together where people can just witness you and us and just exploring these topics.
Yeah. It's like, what is it that we do? Like, what is it that we, know and can help with and are doing the work ourselves. And that's why I think it's so much more authentic for us to just talk and then share it. And for those of you who don't know Melanie Curtis, she's just an all-around badass in every way, professional skydiver, which I didn't even know there was such a thing, honestly, before I met you. I was like, okay. Like world record holder, just, amazingly accomplished in that sport, and an amazing human being who has so much wisdom, so much value and insight, from personal and professional worlds. I'm in awe of you, and I am just humbled and grateful to be your friend because you light me up and you inspire me, and it's just a love fest when we're together. So
Ditto.
this is really how we are. We just like sit around and love each other.
Seriously, this is why I'm so fired up about this. So just to jump into the topic, we're going to pick a topic. It's going to evolve over time. But today we said, why not talk about meditation? Because Pam is super experienced with meditation, has a lot to say about it. And I'm more the person who has tried meditation a bunch of times, a bunch of different ways, believes there's something positive there, and still has this experience of like, kind of not meshing with meditation as a practice. So we were like, let's just talk about that and see what comes up, because I would guess there's a lot of people in my camp where they're like, God, everyone keeps talking about meditation, and what is it? And also there's a lot of probably experienced people out there going, oh yeah, what Pam had to say really worked for me too. That could collaborate and I guess just support us.
Or deepen the practice too. I mean, the thing about meditation, and we'll just dive in with it. I mean, when you see that, I have a lot of, everything's relative, right? So like I've been meditating for about 4 years. Tried to meditate before that. I hated meditation when I first tried it. So I can totally relate to what you say about like, oh, I've tried it. I feel like you trust people who say it's life altering but you haven't experienced it or you haven't felt like how it could be of service. And I literally thought that meditation was definitely not for me. When I tried it, I was like, all right, well, it may work for some people. Like some people may like to swim. I'm not a swimmer, right? Like swimming is not my thing. Right. And I'm like, well, swimming can be great for some people, but it's like not my thing. And I thought that was how meditation was going to be, that like, oh, meditation is good for some people, but it's like just not going to be my thing. So I was there and that was a huge, huge shift for me. But before we even go into that, it's like, what's your experience with meditation?
Yeah, great question. It's funny. I used to be like, oh no, meditation, forget that. Like, no. I was very resistant to it at first. Where I'm at now with it is that I'm in this very patient practice / commitment to the practice. And I say practice with major bunny ears around it because I do not meditate every day. It's more this non-judgmental openness around it, even though it hasn't served me a ton. But I've tried like apps that lead me, which I like because it quiets my mind. I've tried the sitting still and whatever. I've tried there was a Tony Robbins thing that he said one time, which I really liked, which was a lot of like breathing to sort of oxygenate you and then sitting and thinking gratitude. And there was a whole like directed process, but I did it once I learned it. So it wasn't like I was listening. So anyway, long story short, they've all served me. I can't say that I have had any enlightened experiences or anything like that from meditation. Although I will say that it does help me when I find myself in anxiety, that I can maybe lay down, even just set my timer and just be like, I feel like that's more taking kind of a nap even though I'm not sleeping.
Well, it's different. I mean,
So that's it.
so
That's
a couple things. Well, like, first of all, I was so surprised because we've known each other for like a year now, maybe
Yeah.
not quite, but
Oh my God.
because we had our first get to know you conversation. I know, first get to know you conversation, and I was so shocked that you didn't meditate or didn't have a regular meditation practice because you are so mindful. And just to kind of connect the dots between like mindfulness and meditation, because some people say, oh, there's mindfulness meditation. Like, what is the difference between mindfulness and meditation as a practice? Right. So just to explain my experience of it, I define mindfulness as paying attention to what you pay attention to. Right? You have this awareness around what you're paying attention to.
Yes.
And you have this power to decide what you're going to pay attention to.
Yes.
And to me, that's how I define mindfulness, that we can be mindful around our emotions. We can be mindful around our thoughts. We can be mindful around our choices, mindful around our relationships. But it's that power of attention and control. And most of us as human beings are on autopilot where we're kind of being dragged around. Like, you know, you picture a little person walking a big dog and a big dog is like pulling the little person. That's how most of us are around our mind, that we're not even aware most of the time of like where it's going, what we're paying attention to, and that we have the power to choose what we pay attention to and choose what we believe in terms of our thoughts. And to me, that's mindfulness. And you are a freaking ninja at that. Like, I love, like, but you're so mindful and you're so skillful around that.
Definitely.
And
I will take that. Thank you.
Yeah, you
Thank
are.
you.
I mean, and that's one of the reasons why you're so freaking awesome, because you have that skill, and that skill is like superhuman. And that's
it's also
life.
Practice.
Yeah, well, exactly.
It's
skill,
earned.
right? It's a skill. I was not wired this way. You probably weren't wired this way. Like, it was practice, practice, practice. So I guess my original question to you was, how did you become so skillful around mindfulness without meditation? Because the way that I look at meditation, what meditation has given me is this mindfulness. Like, I meditate and that gives me mindfulness. Just like if I go to the gym and I do bicep curls, it gives me strong biceps.
Yep.
And so to me, that's what meditation has given me, at least one thing, because meditation has given me many things.
Right.
But the biggest thing that I've gotten out of meditation is my mindfulness skills, that I can have that control now. And I didn't have that before I meditated. So I was curious, like, how did you get that if you didn't
I'll tell you. Yeah, I'll tell you the answer. Question for you first is, are you talking about like your meditation and mindfulness in terms of your physical body? Are you talking about your thoughts? What do you mean? Like,
so when I say mindfulness power, like the power of mindfulness is to have that spaciousness around what's happening to me and how I respond to it.
Okay.
Whereas when I didn't have mindfulness, I would be reacting. Like, something would happen, and I'd react. And I didn't necessarily feel like a lot of control around how I reacted. Like, I'd get angry and then I would be angry and speak in an angry way and be a bitch or whatever. Like it was, that happened, so then that happened. Yep. Whereas mindfulness has given me this power of like a buffer of, this happens, I'm aware that I'm feeling a certain way, then I can kind of shift, figure out the best way to handle it, and then handle it with skill, as opposed to just not handling it skillfully.
Yeah. Okay. So the question, it totally relates. It's interesting because my approach in general, and this is sort of where my coaching and even my book, it's all sort of designed around, and I'm not trying to plug my stuff. It just happens.
No, but it's important because some of my people don't know you. And
well, meaning it's just the work. It's going to be in the work is all the thing. And part of my power as a coach comes from my experience, just as your power as a coach comes from your experience, et cetera. But so your question is, how did I get mindfulness or whatever? I forget exactly how you worded it, but
how did you get so skillful around mindfulness?
So it derives for me from being a super emotional person. Like, I am very emotional and very, I'd say, intuitive and connected to other people. And just like, I feel things fiercely, if that makes sense. And I think without mindfulness and I'm talking like fear too, which skydiving is a great parallel of how to unpack fear and all this stuff. But when an emotional trigger or charge of any kind, positive, negative, no judgment on it, just any emotional charge comes up, it's like, how do you actually have say in your life or bring consciousness to your life? It's, for me, was a practice in recognizing when I have an emotion come up, which is basically essentially noting it in my physical body. Obviously, we react in emotion, like that implies emotion and a reaction. And so it was learning how to go, okay, there's a reaction, there's a feeling, there's a trigger, there's an emotional charge of some sort. And then doing the work to step away, like to detach myself from that experience, to even be in the experience, but then to almost be outside of myself and go, all right, what am I thinking? Going back to mindset. So for me, it's a lot around the thoughts that derive and drive the emotional charges, such that if we have one, a thought or a fear that isn't serving us, but's unconscious, stepping outside of the emotion to that practice of what am I thinking here in words to that's making me feel this way or fear this or whatever, or be inspired in this way, right? That's the practice that I've taken in terms
and then you can question it. You can be like, well, is this true? Is this of service?
Correct. And
right.
Is this what I actually am aligned with? So that it expands into the choosing of core values and being able to consciously choose and then design actions around core values. So again, this is not something instantly achievable theoretically. It is, at least for me, has been a long-term practice. So it's a lot about identifying the thoughts and then going from there.
Cool. I mean, everything that you say is exactly like my process as well. Just the funny thing is that I didn't really have that much power around it. Or maybe like I definitely started that. I was a huge mindset person and, power of positive thought and making good choices and being really, skillful around my thoughts and that kind of thing. But like in the moment of like being angry, like when something would happen and I'd be triggered.
Yeah.
Until meditation, I didn't have the power to have the awareness around it, have the spaciousness around it. It was like one of the analogies, there's kind of like a thing I can use. One of the analogies I use, it's like if you imagine there was, like if I had a little rubber ball and I dropped it, it would just bounce right up because there's no water in here.
Right.
But if there was water in here and I dropped the ball in it, it would hit the water and then it would kind of like slowly float down and not bounce up. And that was kind of like what happened when I started meditating. When I started meditating, it gave me this like buffer.
Yeah.
And it was weird because at first when it happened, I was like, this is weird because I would have this inner dialogue, almost like the same thing that you're saying that you practice.
Yeah.
I got that from meditating. It's not the only thing I got from meditating, but I got that from meditating.
Yeah.
And it was like fast. It was like all of a sudden like, whoa, that was weird because this happened last week and I flew off the handle and I didn't have the insight that it doesn't have nothing to do with this current moment. It's actually some other stuff. And I wasn't gracious.
Yeah.
But meditation is what gave me that spaciousness inside myself to be able to look at it from a bunch of different angles and not just immediately feel the need to react.
Yeah. I think a lot of, cause think about it, like, if hearing what you're saying, I'm like, okay, well, how does that actually go in? Or is that a part of what I've done? Is it a part of it? Like the skill. And I say in skills all the time because I genuinely believe everyone can cultivate the skills to deal with their emotions, to manage their thoughts, to choose consciously, all that shit. So good shit.
Good shit. That's a good shit. It's a good shit. It's how you make the life that you want, not a life that is just like unfolding out of control, like with a mess, right?
Yeah.
Like, and you look back, you're like, what the hell happened? Like, why did this go so wrong?
Right. And driven by unconscious fears that are derived from childhood or experiences that we've had that are traumas or whatever. So
or ignorance
Yeah, exactly. Lack of experience, all of it. The period of stepping back away from the emotion, I think like the recognition of something in my physical body, the ability or practice or piece of the bigger practice, the skill of being able to recognize my physical body and be connected to that is a big part. I think like that almost, I think, has to precede the mindset stuff, because when we're clouded with emotion, it's like, how does it manifest in your body? Like for me, it's tightness of the chest. My head gets like tense. It's like a weird feeling in my head. and in my chest sometimes gets tight, stuff like that. Other people say it manifests differently for them. Like, how does it manifest for you when you get triggered, you know, in your physical?
Yeah. Well, I love that you're saying this, because it's one of the ways that I try to help people shift to feeling that inner energy flow. Like when we get triggered, sometimes it starts way low, like at the base of my spine, and I feel it bubbling up, like a tightness bubbling up. Sometimes it starts in my stomach. Like I'll feel like the butterflies in my stomach, and I'll start to come up. Sometimes in my heart, sometimes in my throat, sometimes in my head. But I love that you're saying that, because that is one of the things that, again, meditation helped me with, because that inner awareness of this inner space, right? That's like you say, you feel it in your body. And it's almost like there was this inner space inside of your body that you're feeling this movement, you're feeling this flow or this blockage or discomfort in. And that's kind of like, through meditation, that inner space has opened up and been kind of refined in a much more intense, subtle way. So I feel like maybe in the beginning, like you can only, you know, like when it's really loud out, you can't hear soft sounds, but then if it gets quiet, you can hear soft sounds with like great detail. It's a great mindfulness activity. Like if you go in a room, like what different sounds? Oh, I can hear the street. I can hear the hum of the fan. And you can hear the subtle sounds if you start to kind of relax and allow yourself to do that. And meditation kind of allowed me to do that in my body, where I started to be much more tuned into that flow of energy or discomfort. Like when I get triggered, and it starts to bubble up. And part of my practice now is whenever I get triggered, whenever it starts to bubble up, recognize how my mind immediately wants to push it back down and like not allow whatever the discomfort is. Like if it used to be like my fear of being late. I don't know if I ever told you the story that I was always terrified of being late, and it would bubble up. And then I would go into like hyper, like, oh, I can't be late. I'm going to run. The train's going to come. I'm going to get there. And the whole time I'm like in this hyper, like amped out, you know, horrible place of rushing and being stressed. And instead now it starts to bubble up, and I like allow whatever the fear is to like fully bubble up. Like, well, maybe I will be late. Like maybe I will be late, and not let my brain get involved in like making it not so. I'll be like, maybe I will be late, and it won't be the end of the world.
I love it.
And I still hustle.
Energetically, it's just like, maybe I will be late. That to me, detaching from that outcome, like recognizing I am afraid for some reason that if I'm late, it means something bad, negative, something or other, something bad will happen if I'm late. Whatever it means, whatever meaning we're attaching to that. So common, so understandable, but go on.
And recognizing how our mind gets so involved. Like whenever we get triggered, our mind is like, bam. And it wants to like not allow whatever the fear or the issue is. And it's going to do everything it can to control, to avoid that fear, which is incredibly unhealthy, right? Like some, it's like, now it's like, I ask one basic question when I get triggered now, to like kind of answer your question in that way. When I get triggered now, I ask myself like, what's going on? Like I'm very like interested and curious, like, so interesting. I'm starting to feel this. And sometimes I can tell, I know consciously what the issue is. And I'll ask myself like, one, is there like a physical threat? Because like, if I'm getting triggered because there's like a dog coming at me, then by all means, like go into fight or flight and get out of dodge or whatever. But assuming there's no immediate physical threat, it's like, this is so interesting. I want to learn more. Like I don't want to avoid it. The opposite. I want to get as close to it as possible. Get as close so I can learn all that I can to figure out like, what's going on here? Like, is this real? Is this from when I was a kid? Is this ignorance? Like, do I think something's here that's not, all the taking things personally? That's a whole other conversation we're going to have another day. But all that awareness really for me came from meditation, because it opened up this kind of inner awareness to the subtlety of what was going on in there, and allowed me to like maneuver it. Almost like, if you've ever seen Jackie or Bruce Lee, when he like fights people, it's almost like he somehow, everybody else is in slow-mo and he can like get around and like do like almost like twice as fast as everyone else. And so he's like 5 steps ahead of everyone. And like, that's what meditation has kind of created for me, that feeling of like, I have all this extra time and space to look at all my issues from all these different angles, and then handle them with grace, instead of being like flustered and like, on the back, being thrown around by it. It's like, I've suddenly like made more time and space around all of my problems, and I can handle them with grace.
Which is huge. The idea of being able to be able to inquire into a trigger, you know what I mean? Like, that's a huge deal. that's a skill in itself. Again, these are all sort of skills layered on each other, it seems. Like, I want to also ask you before, don't let me forget this, is I want to ask you to actually detail how your meditation looks so that I can, and people listening can witness and not witness it literally, but like hear what you do, given it works so well for you and maybe looking for other ideas. But the idea that you can be just, sorry, random, my brain.
No, it's good. We're going to bounce around. That's how we are.
Excited ways. This idea that I've said it, like putting on the investigator hat. Like when the trigger comes up, when we don't know, it's that inquiry of being like, well, what is it? Like leaning into the fear. Like, I love how you just said that, how like, oh no, I don't want to like push it down or keep it or stay away from it. I actually want to like get close to it and really ask about it and genuinely inquire. It's cool. There's a very lovingness about that.
Yeah. Respecting was a thing too. I used to fear. I don't know if I told you this, another fun thing. Like I used to fear.
Totally normal.
But I didn't know I did it. I didn't know I was doing it. And so I'd start to feel afraid, and then I would be afraid that I was afraid. And then it's like, oh, you're fucked, right? Like, shit.
Oh my God. Yes.
But so switching to respecting the fear, right?
Yeah.
Appreciating the fear. Fear is always telling us something important.
Yes.
Ooh, restart now. No, I'm not going to restart now. Fear is always telling me something important. So I respect that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And then I make friends with it. I'm like, well, thank you so much for stopping by. Thank you for coming. What is it that you're bringing me?
Yes.
And like, how can I make the most of it? And if it's not of service, I get as much information as possible. Yeah. And then I make the best call for me. Because all the magic happens out of our comfort zone, right? So we're going to have to face all of that discomfort if we want to grow. And so we have to learn how to skillfully navigate fear, which is probably a whole nother conversation. Definitely. But meditation is what unlocked that for me. I mean, I wasn't like a total mess before meditation, but like, I wasn't at all the way I did, didn't have the awareness that I have now. Right.
Tell me what you do. Like, tell me what you do. Like, for people watching, they can go, okay, what does Pam actually do? Because that sounds good. What she has, I dig her energy. I like her vibe. She's chill. Everything she's saying, I'm resonating with. Maybe I'll try her method. What is your method?
Yeah. So my practice kind of was twofold. I originally learned to meditate at Ishta Yoga from someone named Alan Finger. And Alan Finger actually has meditations on Spotify. So you can just go and listen to his meditations.
Okay.
And that's how I meditated for the first like 2 years, maybe 2.5 years. And that was great. And that's what got me the things that the stuff that you and I so far have talked about came from this first level of practice. Cool. It was great. I mean, it was life-changing and like great. But then 2.5 years ago, I started practicing something called Kriya Yoga. Okay. And my teacher, Don Abrams, he has basically, he learned from his teacher, Hari Nanda. Hari Nanda learned from Sri Kishore and Yogananda. And there's this whole lineage that is pretty cool and powerful if you know much about yoga. But there's specific techniques that are passed down that are incredibly powerful. So one of the analogies, it's like when you meditate, you want to go as deep as possible, as often as possible. Because like when you meditate, if you listen to someone guiding you and you're like, thinking about loving kindness and forgiveness, and I have a meditation actually that's for free on my website that's kind of like that. It's just kind of a guided meditation. You don't go that deep. You're kind of staying on the surface of things.
Okay.
Ishta, you start going deep. And when I say deep, it's like in Ishta, one of the, there's a Hamsa or Saham meditation where you're kind of like, visualizing your spine and light traveling up and down your spine as you meditate.
Right.
And so that's one of the ones that you can hear that Alan Finger has on Spotify. Awesome. And so you're kind of going deep within your body to a more kind of subtle, energetic place of who you are. And you're kind of like connecting with this deeper part of you that is kind of the witness of all that you are. So the witness of your thoughts, the witness of your feelings, the witness of your body, the witness of your five senses. Yep. Like who are you that is witnessing all of that?
Got it.
And the deeper you get into what that is and experiencing the subtlety of who you really are, because we're not our bodies. Like, that's a major epiphany that a lot of people haven't, and it's fine. Like wherever we are is totally fine. But at some point you start to realize like, there's like 3 trillion cells that make up our body. Like there is no way that like, that's what I am. That doesn't make any sense. Like, that doesn't make any sense. There's like, trillions of cells, other organisms that are making this body work, that are making my brain work.
Right.
Like I can't, it just doesn't make sense that that's what I am, like, because I can connect to something deeper than that. So when I meditate, I'm going as deep as possible. So the Kriya techniques, one of my analogies is like, if you were going to go to the beach and you wanted to dig a tunnel through the sand, you could dig a tunnel with like a plastic spoon. You could dig a tunnel with a plastic thing. You could dig a tunnel with a shovel. You could dig a tunnel with like a huge freaking, heavy machinery, blasting through, right? So the Kriya techniques are like that. The Kriya techniques, when I started practicing those 2.5 years ago, I went so deep, so fast, and experienced the next stage of what I wanted to talk to you about too. Like the other thing that I've kind of gotten from meditation, this connection to oneness, connection to infinite light and love, right? That like, I know I am, right? I know I am infinite light and love. Like I know that. I've experienced that. So after my meditations, I come back to life and like things don't bother me the way they did before. Like I don't take anything personally. There's no person. Like we're all infinite light and love. And that may sound like, woohoo, okay, Pam. But the thing is, like meditation, deep meditation, you experience some magical, mystical shit. Like where then you're like, it's so good. There's so much beauty. There's so much peace. There's so much bliss. There's so much power in what you experience when you meditate. Then when you come back, you start to still experience it more and more. And it was a process. Like in the beginning, I would experience it and be like, I want that all the time. How do I go about being a human and stay in touch with that?
Yes.
And over years of practice, that's what I've gotten out of meditation. Like there's that kind of Jesus quote, like be in this world, but not of it. So I'm like, you know me, I'm a mom. I've got 2 little kids. I have a husband with a crazy job. I juggle all kinds of stuff. Like I am in this world. I'm not in a cave 24/7, with fire and like not coming out into society. Like I am in this world. But what I've gotten from meditation is like, I'm not of this world. Like I know I'm not, and you're not, and no one is. I don't judge anyone because I know we're all equal. We're all at different points in this evolution of being human, but like, I'm not better than anyone, and no one's better than me. We're all one. And like, it gives me this unlimited compassion, this unlimited courage. Cause I don't fear death. I don't fear the death of my family. I don't fear anything because I've experienced what everything really is, which is awesome and powerful and beautiful and divine. And like, I've never been a God person. Like when I was younger, I used to kind of get really pissed when I was at a school function and they'd mention God because I was like, separationist church and state. And I was like, I had this whole rebellion against Catholicism because I was raised kind of in a Catholic family, a Catholic community. And there's so much about like the intolerance and stuff that just didn't feel right. And so I had this kind of rebellion against God when I was younger. I'm like so back into God, like, and it's not God like I used to think God was. I'm just being completely honest, but like, this is what I've gotten from meditation. It's not God like at all what I thought God was. It's like this life force. You could call it the force, like a la Star Wars, a cosmic force, a life force, the universe, oneness. But it's you, it's me, it's the trees, it's the ocean, it's the earth, it's the stars, it's everything. We are that big. We are that powerful. So then when I come back to being human, like, what could faze me?
Well, it's so fascinating because I feel like and I say like enlightened moment. I just say that just because that's I would guess
it's a beautiful thing.
A term that resonates with people that maybe haven't had such a depth of experience in meditation. Like I haven't had a depth of experience in meditation. Like
right. But you've watched the sunset. You've had those moments, right?
Yeah. Like I definitely, it's interesting because I in some of the assessments that I do and talking about energy and just understanding energy and our emotions. And again, these are offshoot conversations we could have, but
we're going to have so many.
Yeah, I know. So, but people who haven't experienced that through meditation, but have through other things, like, because I've heard a lot of people say about meditation that their meditation is skydiving or surfing or sitting and, like you said, watching a sunset or being on top of a mountain or whatever. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to be physical. I'm picking physical, literal things, but You know what I'm saying?
No, but
Like
like being in nature,
watching.
traveling, this is the thing. Expanding our awareness
Mm-hmm.
can happen in a multitude of ways. So meditation is one way
Yeah,
to drastically expand your awareness, but
exactly.
traveling expands your awareness. Watching the
Mm-hmm.
sunset, being in national parks, forest, a view, like
Yeah,
our awareness is looking up at the stars. Like when you just lay on the
yeah,
ground and just look up at the stars, like that
exactly.
expands our awareness. And
Yes.
we have moments where we just feel there's just this deeper truth, this deeper power that is in all of us.
Yeah.
And it feels good. Like we know in those moments that, like, man, there's this deep bliss, this
Yeah.
deep peace, this deep power. So I love that you're bringing that up because, like,
Yeah.
yeah, in hindsight, I used to experience this all the time and I was super connected with it. Like I always loved being in nature. I always loved watching the sunset and looking up at the stars and being, I grew up on an apple farm and there were certain places I could go on the farm where there'd be like no other people and you couldn't see houses and you
Yeah.
could feel like it was just you and nature. And you feel that deeper truth, deeper connection. And usually in those moments, oh, the other thing, wind. Sometimes wind
Mm-hmm.
blowing on you, like it
Right.
quiets your mind. Looking at fire
Yeah.
is very meditative. And in those moments, your mind becomes so quiet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those moments, your mind
Yeah.
just shuts the fuck up.
Yeah.
And you're just being. You're not doing, you're being. You are a human being
Yeah.
and you're connected with that deeper truth, right?
Definitely. And it's funny because I think what's so great, like if I think about, okay, what's one of the reasons you and I are even doing this? Why are we having, it's not just so that, oh, we get to talk to each other and then everyone gets to see
Which is
us.
great.
It's that, like, how are we being of service and sharing these conversations? Because I think about it and I go, lots of people have, what I love and I think is extractable from this is that meditation, or there are loads of different ways to connect to that depth. Like, you know what I mean? Because I feel like, and I may be wrong, maybe this is just something I've had, this perception that meditation is the only way. And if you're not into meditation, then you can't access this depth. Like, I feel like there's perception like that out there about meditation, and hence there's a resistance to it because it's like, oh, fuck, I have to go this one way to get this thing, when I just don't think that's the case. I think it totally.
It's just like the only way to build your bicep muscle is not to do
Yeah,
bicep curls, right? It's not
totally.
the only
Yes.
way. The
Yes.
thing about it though, it is an intense way
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
develop the skill, because you're literally rewiring. Like neuroscience shows us now, like
Totally.
when neuroscience does studies on meditators' brains,
I love
they're totally
neuroscience.
different than brains that are not meditating, because you're
Exactly.
literally rewiring your brain
Mm-hmm.
in ways that connect you to compassion,
Yes.
connect you to different parts of your brain
Yes.
that give you these powers. And like, yes, there are other ways living your life moment to moment. The reality though, like, our lives. I live in New York City, Westchester. I'm in New York City every day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot of downtime.
Yep.
So for me, meditating each morning for a half an hour is like it's like going to the gym and I did the bicep curls.
Yep.
Maybe a half an hour. I think there's been some studies that are like a half an hour of deep meditation is the equivalent of like X number of, visits to the beach or something like that, where it's like, it compacts the benefits down into less time.
Cool.
So, and there's this great program called 40 Years of Zen, which someday maybe I'll have the money and the time to do. It's like $15,000 that you go out to the West Coast, and using biofeedback in 1 week, you can get the same neurological benefits as 40 years of meditation. Wow. And the reason why is because when you use biofeedback, you can make those changes quicker, know what's working to get yourself into the theta and delta, the different levels of brain waves. Because when you meditate, the deeper you go, you're literally taking your brain waves to more and more subtle kind of wavelength. And using biofeedback, you can learn to do that quicker than if you're doing it without any guide at all.
Yeah.
And same thing, like being out in nature for like a 2-hour hike, you do get that relaxation and rest.
Yeah.
And so maybe a half an hour of meditation, deep meditation, is equal to 2 hours walk in the forest. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
I would be out of my ass.
No, but I know. Like, yeah, I get it though.
Getting ourselves into that relaxed state. Because it's literally like, again, there's this subtle thing that's happening because our brain waves are actually relaxing. So like normally we're focused on the world, and the world is very dense. So it's like, right? That's like our interaction moment to moment.
Yep.
When we go out into nature, it's more like ba, ba, ba,
Yep.
ba, ba.
Yeah.
And so we're coming to this like slower wavelength of experiencing life.
Mm-hmm.
And again, like that subtlety allows us to sense, connect with the quieter underlying kind of foundational truths that are there. And that's what's happening with meditation. So you can do that. You can do that with your partner. Like, do that with your partner, you know, that to like be like, you know what, I'm gonna just, you know, like if you just touch each other gently instead of touching each other hard and fast, how good it feels to touch gently. It's the same kind of thing.
Yeah. I love the idea of the distinction between that, because that's the thing, is that like, it is neuroplasticity. That's, oh my God, I feel like we should
another week
put links with this one and stuff, but like that there are multiple ways to access this, and there are some that are more efficient than others, and that's all. Like that's the thing too, is like, again, it's not even about any judgment.
And this is not a contest at all. It's not like, oh, you know, person X is more enlightened and person Y is less, therefore one's better. It's not like that at all. I have such deep, the other thing that has come out of my meditation, I have such deep respect, acceptance, love for everyone, no matter where they are. And I really do believe that we're all forming some beautiful tapestry together. And so like accepting exactly where we are is key. And the other thing I really want to say about meditation, because I think it's important, I used to think, and I know a lot of people think, that meditation is about quieting your mind. And it's actually like, that is a side effect eventually that comes. But meditation is actually about controlling your attention. And so the first stage of meditation is just being able to pick something, anything, and keep your attention there. In the beginning, it's hard to keep your attention on one spot. So no matter how loud and noisy your brain is, because our brains don't actually ever shut up. They do eventually get much, much quieter, but they don't just shut up. And if you're trying to get it to shut up, it's like you're fighting against a river. It's not going to stop flowing, right?
Right.
So recognizing that the practice of meditation isn't about getting your brain to shut up. It's about just keeping your attention in one place. And then the next stage that you kind of remember as you're practicing, the next stage is effortless concentration. So the goal is that you can effortlessly keep your attention in one place. And if you think about how important that is, that you then have control over something without it being work, without you having to put effort into it, you then kind of like, it's like being a dancer who can suddenly just learn the dance and do it.
It's a muscle for sure. I really feel like it is.
It really is. It's, you're rewiring your brain to have this power.
Yeah. Like the whole asking me, like you thinking I was meditative or whatever, that I had some control over my mind, you know, like I really feel like that's part of it. It's like I've achieved my peace and serenity. It's not that I don't feel anxiety or fear or whatever. I certainly do. Just to say that I definitely have worked to cultivate that mental muscle of decided attention, of consciousness, and then choosing where I'm putting my attention. I've just worked a lot with thoughts and mindset. So interesting. Like, it's just so, what's fascinating to me too, is that there's still, even in this conversation, as inspiring as this is, I still am like, oh, I don't want to do that.
Well, it's out of your comfort zone, but let's, this is so important, right? Because I know you know this,
and
I was the same way.
I
was the same way. It's like, don't make me sit still.
Like,
don't make me sit still. I've got things to do. I've got things to create. I've got so much to give. I want to be going. I want to be doing. Don't make me sit still. And it's not comfortable. It's out of my comfort zone. Which we both know how important it is to embrace things that are out of our comfort zone. And in fact, do something just because it's out of your comfort zone, right? Challenge yourself. Is this out of your comfort zone? then get good
Yeah.
at it. I mean, that's how I did not like yoga. The first bunch of times I did yoga, I wanted to kill myself. Forget about meditation, but just yoga, just going to yoga class. I only have an hour without my kids.
Right.
I'm trying to get back into shape. I want to be punching, kicking, jumping, sweating. Don't ask me to hold a pose that it doesn't even seem like it's doing anything for, 6 breaths before I get to move. Like, it was hell. And then I had a friend who made me, or kind of guilted me into coming. She had a private person coming to her house who got me, at least, so it was a little bit out of my comfort zone. So at least I knew the basic poses. So it wasn't like it's uncomfortable and I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I could at least know, okay, this is downward dog. This is upward dog. This is warrior 1, warrior 2, like the basics.
Yep.
So I was able to then go to a class. This took months. I was able to then go to a class, and then the first class that I went to, that was like a real class as opposed to the one at the gym where it was like not a real class. But the first class, the teacher, Allie Kramer, read from Jack Kornfield's book, Path with Heart. And that book was the book when I was 19, that book had fallen off the shelf. I was in a Denver bookstore with my boyfriend. I was like, I want to get a book. So I went to a bookstore and literally the book fell off the shelf. And it's like a Buddhist, beautiful book about meditation, but not deep meditation, just more kind of being aware. And she read out of that book and I was like, all right, fine. I'll come to class. Fine. I'll come to class. I'll commit that I'll come to this class for 3 months, twice a week. I'll come. And like, that was it. And it was like, there was such magic that started happening after that class.
Yeah.
Because there's something about the physical practice of yoga. And then the Shavasana at the end, when you lay there still, which at first I hated. And I'd sit there being like, I have to do this at this hour and I have to get this. I can't forget to get this. And I would lie there the entire Shavasana, everything going through my mind. And over time, I got better and better about just kind of like easing into the light and hearing some buzz and just kind of floating. But in the beginning, hell, out of my comfort zone. And then when I decided to do teacher training, that place, Laughing Lotus, was like super bright and shiny and like totally my kind of place. Like, if there was anywhere that was going to get me into yoga, it was there. But then Ishta was a much more kind of quiet, foundational, like just nuts and bolts, like, but there was a depth to the practice there and the teaching and the respect to form, and it just felt different. And again, not in my comfort zone, but I felt called to do my teacher training there instead of Laughing Lotus, because I felt like even though that wasn't my natural path, it was the right one. It wasn't the easiest one or the brightest and shiniest, but I felt like that was right. And it was like, there's no question that it was.
I think there's a thing when we release resistance to something, and it's not to say that we have to, like, just because we recognize resistance that we don't have to. It's just, gosh, there's so much. I mean, I don't want to talk too long. I want to make sure we keep these relatively consumable for people.
Yeah, you and I could.
Oh my God. But I just think that's super cool to hear that, because again, it's like what I'm hearing when I hear you describe how you got into yoga and your resistance to it, it's that subtle persistence. Like, it's for real. That's how I feel about meditation. Like, I feel like I'm on a path with meditation. Like, I used to be dug in against, and I am definitely committed to not being dug in against, which is a thing for me. Like, that's a step in my process toward, I think, doing it, It's just cool because I'm witnessing the resistance. Like, I even laid down, 15 minutes before this, because I'm like, I just kind of want to, center and just chill and whatever, I just had a lot going on, a bunch of emails, just like stuff. And it was like, okay, we're talking about meditation, like, good excuse to do this and, whatever. Similarly, like reading articles about like just learning about it more too, like that's helped me. But I just love about how I do think when we release resistance, when it's time for us, whenever we uniquely each in this world are ready to release resistance to something that we are resisting,
so we can grow, right?
It's clear.
Because that comfort zone stuff, we get out of our comfort zone and that's where we grow. And we will when we're ready, and there's no guilt or shame, or it is what it is. And I have such deep trust that when the time is right, it will be sparked and you will start to do it more. Or, sometimes like kind of a joke, like this lifetime, next lifetime.
Yeah.
It's just, there is such a magic in stillness.
Yeah.
It's like, there's a subtlety and power to life
Yeah.
that we can access when we're still. And there's a knowing, there's a truth and a power and a wisdom that we can access when we're still. And we can't access it. It's just like a ripply water, right? If you're looking out at a lake and the water's all choppy, it's not, you can't see the reflection of anything. You can't see anything.
Yeah.
But when it calms, and then it's like this beautiful, reflective glass, it's just like our inner state. If we let kind of our inner state get to a place of stillness, there is a clarity that just, it's a game changer. Because like one of the things too that's come out of meditation, I don't ever worry about decisions. There's no decisions like, should I do this or that? No, I can feel that I'm so clear on what I need to do. Not that it's going to be right or wrong.
Totally.
Or that it'll be painless, but this is what I need to do. This is the path that I need to be on. And it's cool.
I'm a genuine believer everything is for us, that there are no mistakes, because it's like, even if we make a mistake, we haven't
opportunity
experience. Yeah. We feel pain or whatever. It is the opportunity to grow. And it is the lesson that we theoretically needed. Again, I'm very big on the language. We could talk another one of these about language hacks and stuff like that. But I think we should wrap this one up. But is there?
Yeah, I think it's a great place to end.
Yeah, I mean, girl. Oh, I guess the last thing I would say is I'm going to put the websites down underneath us. So for people watching.
Yeah, and there is a meditation, a free 7-minute meditation that's based on my book. It's not that deep, but it's based on that kind of inner, very mindset-y and kind of inner practice-y. And it's 7 minutes and it's free. So
great place to start.
Gold Evolution.
Yeah. So goldevolution.com. So
MelanieCurtis.com, wherever you are.
They'll both be down there. We both have email lists. So just sign up if you want more of our stuff. And we're going to keep these going and just really aim to keep creating value for you guys. So thanks for tuning in. And
they say the best is yet to come, but I swear it's already here. Just open up your eyelids.